He walked into his kitchen and saw his maid dancing. But when he looked closer, his deaf twins were moving in perfect sync, and what happened next changed everything he believed about love, betrayal, and second chances. Stay with this story till the end. The final twist will leave you speechless. Before we begin this powerful story, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a single episode of our life-changing content. Like and share the channel to help us reach more hearts around the world. These stories are more than just entertainment. Each one carries a meaningful moral lesson designed to inspire, heal, and uplift. Billionaire catches maid dancing with his deaf twins. What they did next in the kitchen shocked him. I used to think I had everything. A multi-million-dollar empire. A sprawling estate with smart glass walls and marble floors. A boardroom full of people who said yes before I even finished a sentence. But silence, real silence, was what filled my home. Not peace. Not calm. Just emptiness. Especially after my wife walked away. She could not handle the truth that our twins were born deaf. She said she felt robbed. That our children were damaged. And one morning, she simply left. No warning. No goodbye. Just a note by the crib. You wanted kids. Handle them yourself. That was 2 years ago. Since then, I built higher walls. Around the house. And around my heart. Until she arrived. Her name was Amara. She came from a small town I could not even pronounce. Skin like warm honey. Eyes like a rainstorm. Calm, yet full of thunder. She spoke gently. Moved gently. But her presence stirred something violent in me. Not desire. Not at first. Suspicion. Why would a woman like her take a job as a live-in maid for a broken billionaire and his silent children? But the twins loved her. I watched from the hallway as they clung to her apron. Touched her face to understand her words. Laughed. No, signed laughter. In ways they never did with me. It burned. Was I truly so hard to love? One night, I came home early. I was supposed to be at a charity gala. But my chest felt heavy. My fingers trembled as I adjusted my cufflinks. So I turned the car around and came back. I walked in through the back door. No one heard me. And then I heard music. Old jazz. Playing low from her phone. That was odd. My twins could not hear it. I moved slowly down the hall. Every step like thunder in my chest. And then, I saw it. In the kitchen. My twins, barefoot on the tile. And Amara, twirling with them. Dancing. Not with words. Not with sound. But with hands. With expressions. With joy. She signed every beat of the music. She taught them rhythm with her body. She made the floor their stage, the kitchen their theater. My daughter Alina reached her hands to the sky. My son Leo giggled, eyes wide with wonder. He placed a hand on her heart, feeling the thump-thump of the music in her chest. She guided his tiny hands to her own. And together they moved. I stood there frozen. This was not a maid. She was a symphony. She was turning my silent house into a concert hall. Then she saw me. She froze. The twins turned. I expected her to stammer, to explain, to beg. But she held her ground. I am sorry, sir, she said softly, signing every word so the children could understand too. I did not mean to overstep. But they love music, even if they cannot hear it the way we do. I wanted to say something cruel, to remind her of her place. But I could not. My throat was thick. My eyes, wetter than they had been in years. I nodded once, then walked away. But that night, I watched the security footage. All of it. Every smile. Every spin. every spark of connection she had with my children that I never could. It broke me. The next morning, I called her into my study. She looked nervous. I asked her to sit. "I want to understand what you did yesterday," I said. Her eyes widened. "I was just—" "No," I interrupted. "I mean, truly understand. I want to learn to speak to them. The way you do." She blinked, then smiled. Not just with her lips, with her whole face. "That takes time," she said. "I have time," I replied. From that day on, she taught me. Sign by sign. Gesture by gesture. Word by word. I practiced with my children during breakfast. I failed miserably. But they laughed at my mistakes. They touched my face with their tiny hands. They signed "I love you" one morning, and I nearly collapsed with emotion. Amara was patient. She was not just teaching me to communicate. She was teaching me to feel again. And something shifted. Not just in my relationship with the twins, but in me. In how I viewed love, service, connection, the world. Then one evening, Amara fell asleep on the living room floor, curled between my children, a book still in her hand. I stood above them, silent. And for the first time, I wondered what it would feel like to never let her go. I did not know it then. But what she was hiding from me, the truth about why she really came to work in my home, would change everything. Because that truth was written in the letter I found tucked beneath her pillow the next morning. A letter with my name on it. A letter from someone I thought I had buried with the past. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the letter. It was not sealed, but it felt like something sacred. Heavy, private, painful. Her handwriting was delicate, small curves and flourishes, as if each word was stitched by hand. "Mr. Blackwood," it began. "By the time you read this, I may have already packed my bags. Or perhaps I stayed longer than I promised myself I would. Either way, I owe you the truth." I sat down. The morning light spilled through the tall windows. Golden. Still. Silent. You do not know me, not really. But I knew you long before I entered your home. My sister, Eva, was your wife's nurse during her final trimester. She never spoke of you with hatred. But she wept often. Not because you were cruel, but because you were not there. You were building an empire. She was building life. Alone. I stopped reading. My throat tightened. My hands curled around the edge of the desk. I remembered those months. I was on the road. Dubai. Singapore. London. Deals. Investors. A new product launch that was going to change the world. While the mother of my children sat in the hospital, bleeding, afraid, abandoned. And I had the audacity to resent her for leaving. I kept reading. I was just a teenager then. I used to watch your twins sleep in the hospital nursery. I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, even for a moment, I would return something to them. To you. To what was lost. When I heard you were hiring, I applied under a different name. I needed this to be clean. No charity. No history. Just me and them. I never expected to fall in love with those children, or to feel something stir in me when you looked at them the way you did that night in the kitchen. My heart stumbled. She knew. All along. She had seen me at my weakest. My coldest. My most absent. And still, she came. Not to punish me, but to repair what I had broken with my own hands. I did not come here to steal your place. Or to replace her. I only wanted to make sure they felt joy, the kind I never saw in their mother's eyes before she died. If you are reading this, I beg one thing only. Be their father. not just in name, but in presence. They do not need more money. They need your eyes, your time, your arms around them when the world feels too big. If you can give them that, I will disappear quietly. My debt will be paid. I stared at the last line for a long time. But it was not the end. There was a postscript. P.S. If you ever find the courage to learn why your wife truly left, and what she asked me to promise her before she died, meet me where she took her last walk. The lake. At sunrise. I folded the letter, held it in both hands, and wept. The lake sat quietly on the edge of the estate. I had not been there in years. The path was still overgrown. Twigs snapped beneath my shoes. The wind moved through the reeds like whispered secrets. When I arrived, the sky was bleeding with gold and pale lavender. She was there, sitting on the old wooden bench by the water. Her back was straight, hair braided, hands folded in her lap. She turned when she heard my steps, but she did not smile. Just watched, waited. I walked slowly, sat beside her. The silence between us was not awkward. It was full of things that needed saying, and things we would never say. I read it, I said. She nodded. I never knew she was sick. She did not want you to know, Amara whispered. She told my sister that if you knew, you would stay out of guilt. Not love. I clenched my jaw. Was she right? Amara looked at me, long and hard. No, she said. But you believed she was. I closed my eyes. 1,000 board meetings. 1,000 flights. And I missed the one goodbye that mattered. What was the promise? I asked. Amara's lips trembled. She made me swear that if her children ever stopped smiling, I would do whatever it took to bring light back into their eyes. And you did, I said. No, she whispered. You did. When you saw them for the first time. When you stayed. When you tried. We sat there as the sun stretched its arms across the water. She placed a hand over mine. I was never here to take from you, she said. I know, I whispered. And now, I do not want you to leave. Her eyes filled with tears. But I am just a maid, remember? I turned to her, firm. You were never just anything. I stood, faced her fully. And if you let me, I want to rewrite that story. With you. With them. As a family. She looked away, wiped a tear, and then I saw it. A flicker. Of hope. Of maybe. Of something neither of us had dared speak aloud. Yet. But just as I reached for her hand again, my phone vibrated in my pocket. Urgent. From my assistant. Sir, we have a problem. Someone leaked footage of you and the maid. It is already spreading online. I stared at the screen. And the world I was building, the world of healing, softness, rebirth, now stood at the edge of another storm. I looked up at Amara. And I knew. This was only the beginning. I handed her the phone. She read the message slowly. Her lips parted, but no words came. Only silence. And that silence felt heavier than any scream. My stomach twisted. Not for me. I had endured worse headlines. I had weathered boardroom betrayals and market crashes. But she had no armor for this. Amara, I began. But she was already standing, backing away. I knew this would happen, she whispered. Her voice was sharp now, quivering, but controlled. You have a world I do not belong to. I stepped forward. That world has already broken me once, I said. I am building a new one. With you. With them. She shook her head. You think love is enough? Her eyes burned into mine. Your shareholders will crucify you. Your board will demand answers.
And your children?
My children adore you.
Yes.
But what happens when paparazzi show up at their school? When strangers shout slurs at them on the street because their father fell in love with the maid?
My fists clenched.
Not out of anger at her,
but at the truth in her voice. The brutal, unfair truth.
I will protect you, I said.
No, she replied.
You cannot protect me from a system built to shame women like me for loving men like you.
I felt the wind shift. Cooler. Sharper.
Birds flew overhead, scattering across the sky like shattered porcelain.
I looked down at the lake.
The reflection was broken.
Like us. She turned to leave. I reached out. Please. She paused.
And for a moment, just 1 second, her shoulders dropped. Like she wanted to fall into me. To believe in the fantasy I was offering.
But then, her back straightened again. And she walked away.
The news broke in less than 2 hours. Tabloids screamed headlines I would not dare repeat aloud. Billionaire's secret maid romance caught on camera. Twins involved. Is this the real reason his wife left? Insider speaks. She was hired to clean, not to seduce. They published a blurry screenshot from my own kitchen. Amara twirling with my daughter. Laughing with Leo. To me, it was the most beautiful moment I had ever witnessed.
To them, it was scandal.
I shut down the comments on every platform. Pulled my children from their preschool. Buried the phones. Locked the gates. But the damage was done. Not to my reputation. That could recover.
But to her.
She had vanished. No resignation letter. No goodbyes to the twins. Just silence. Again. And I realized I had failed her. I wanted to build a life with her. But I had never asked what she needed. What safety looked like to her. I thought love was loud. Public. Brave. But for a woman who had grown up surviving in silence, love was gentle. Quiet. Earned slowly. I walked into the twins' room that night. Alina was staring at the ceiling. Leo was curled in a ball, her favorite stuffed bear tucked into his chest. They signed to me. Simple. Where is Mama Amara? I dropped to my knees. And for the first time, I told them the truth. She is hurting, I signed back. But I hurt her too. Because I did not protect her fast enough. They both stared. Eyes wide. Then Leo, with his tiny hands, signed slowly. Bring her back. I nodded. Not with pride. But with resolve. I will try. I hired no detectives. No private investigators. I knew where she went. I remembered the photo she once showed the twins. A cabin by the sea. Cliffs, carved by wind. A house with no roof, only sky. She said her grandmother once lived there. And when things got too loud in the world, that was where she disappeared. So I booked the next flight to the coast. No security. No entourage. Just me. And a letter of my own in my coat pocket. It took me 4 hours to find the place. The road was unpaved. The grass tall and wild. The cabin stood at the edge of the cliff. Windswept. Worn. Alive. And she was there. On the porch. Wrapped in a shawl. Staring at the sea like it could tell her what to do. She looked up. And for a moment, she did not move. Then she stood. Not to run. Not to welcome me. Just waiting. I walked slowly. The wind whipped through my coat. Sand bit my skin. But her eyes stayed locked on mine. When I reached her, I did not speak. I handed her the letter. She took it with shaking hands,
opened it, and began to read. Amara,
you once wrote me a letter full of truth.
this is mine.
I am not asking for your return. I am asking for your trust.
Not as a billionaire,
Not as a man seeking redemption, but as a father who finally learned how to listen. If you believe there is still music in this silence, come home.
not for me, not for the headlines,
But for the children who still dance when they think of you. She lowered the letter.
tears on her cheeks.
The wind howled behind us.
But she did not flinch.
I cannot come back if I have to hide, she whispered.
You will never have to hide again, I replied. Not in my house. Not in my name. Not in my life. She closed her eyes.
And then, finally,
She stepped forward.
and placed her forehead gently against mine. But just as I reached to pull her into my arms,
My phone buzzed again. A video. From a blocked number.
it played automatically,
My daughter. Crying. My son.
screaming in silence.
A shadowed figure.
A voice I recognized. My ex-wife's brother.
And then one line.
If you want them safe, walk away from her. Or lose everything. My grip tightened around the phone.
The image froze. Alina, her tiny hands shaking.
Leo, eyes wide with silent terror, clutching the stuffed bear Amara gave him.
And behind them, that voice. That threat. I knew it too well. Damien.
My ex-wife's brother. A man I had not trusted even when we were family.
Reckless. Entitled. Poison wrapped in charm.
He always believed my wealth should have belonged to him. Claimed I stole his sister's loyalty. That I corrupted the family name with my ambition. Now he had resurfaced.
And he had my children. I could not breathe.
Amara took a step closer. She saw it on my face before I said a word. What is it?
I handed her the phone. She watched in silence. Her hand flew to her mouth.
Tears pooled in her eyes, but she did not cry.
She grew still. Dead still. What does he want? She asked. I swallowed hard.
He wants me to walk away from you. Her eyes snapped to mine.
And for the first time,
I saw fear in her.
not for herself. For them. Then you must, she whispered. No.
Yes, she said, firmer now. You must make him believe you will. Let him think you have let me go.
I shook my head. You do not understand.
If I walk away from you, I walk away from everything that gave me a reason to live again.
Amara stepped forward. She gripped my collar. Her voice broke. Then live and fight smart.
If you show him your heart, he will rip it apart in front of them.
I had no words. Only pain.
Only fury. And under that,
A calm. A terrifying, focused calm. We will not run, I said. She nodded.
but we will not walk into this storm unarmed. Back in the city, I made 2 calls. One to my private security chief. The other to an old friend, a cyber forensics expert who owed me his life from a deal I saved him from years ago. I sent him the video. I need to trace it.
Source. Location. Any metadata.
He responded within minutes.
Encrypted.
But there is a digital fingerprint in the audio. Looks like it came from an old estate on the southern cliffs.
Belongs to Damien Blackstone. Of course. I turned to Amara.
I know where they are. She was already putting on her coat. I am coming.
I hesitated.
It could be dangerous.
Her voice was steel.
They are my children too.
I looked at her.
And I knew, this woman was not just the heartbeat of our home.
She was the spine, the fire,
the quiet force that storms cannot drown.
We arrived near midnight. No police, no flashing lights.
Just the silence of strategy.
I knew Damien. He wanted spectacle.
If I showed up with law enforcement, he would vanish. Leave the children with someone worse. Or worse, disappear with them altogether.
Instead, I came alone.
But not unprotected. My head of security, Jonas, and 2 ex-military men from my private team circled the perimeter. Amara stayed in the car, against her will, watching the house through night vision binoculars.
I walked to the door. Knocked twice. No answer. Then, a creak.
He opened the door slowly, wearing that smug grin he always wore when he believed he had already won.
"Well," Damien said,
"the prodigal billionaire returns. Without a press crew, even. Where are they?"
He laughed.
"You know, when my sister died, I expected you to at least pretend to grieve. But you just buried yourself in contracts and silence. Then you let some maid twirl around in your kitchen like she was your new queen. It was insulting." "Where are they, Damien?"
He stepped aside. "Come in. Let us talk."
I walked into the dark hall. Every instinct screamed at me to knock him unconscious.
But I had to play it. Cool. Controlled.
He led me into the drawing room.
And there they were. My children. On the couch.
Safe but pale.
Quiet. Confused. Leo looked up.
His face lit up the moment he saw me. He signed frantically, "Dad. Dad."
Damien smirked. "They are fine. For now.
But the future, that depends on you."
I stepped forward.
"Let them go."
He raised a hand.
"You think you can just replace my sister with some woman who irons your shirts and teaches sign language like it makes her a saint?"
I looked at him. Really looked. His jaw clenched. His fists trembled.
This was not just about money. This was about control.
Wounded pride. Delusion. "You want money?" I asked. He sneered.
"I want you humiliated." "You want the company?"
He chuckled. "No.
I want you to make a public statement.
On record. Denounce her. Admit it was all fake.
Say she manipulated you. Then maybe I let the kids go."
I stepped closer. "Let them go.
Or I will bury you in a courtroom so deep, your name will be erased from every document that ever existed."
He blinked. "I have the footage," he said.
"And I have your voice on that video," I replied. "The moment this conversation ends, my people will leak every encrypted byte of your kidnapping threat to every outlet in the country." His face paled. "You are bluffing." Amara's voice rang out from behind the door.
"He is not."
She stepped into the room. Damien staggered back. I used to think you were just a bitter man," she said. "But now I see it.
You are afraid.
Of a world where love cannot be bought or bullied."
He lunged forward.
But my security team rushed in. Guns holstered, but hands firm. Damien was on the ground within seconds.
Arrested. Removed. Silenced.
I ran to the twins.
Held them both. Tight.
Leo buried his face in my chest. Alina signed with teary eyes, "Home." "Yes," I signed back. "Home." But as I turned to look at Amara, something in her expression made my heart stop.
She stumbled. Her hand on her stomach. Her face pale. I rushed to her. "Amara." She looked up at me. And whispered, "It is not just them anymore." My world shifted in a single heartbeat.
I caught her just before she collapsed. She was trembling, her skin cold damp.
"Amara, look at me," I whispered.
Her lips quivered. I was going to tell you," she said faintly. "But everything happened so fast." I held her face gently in my hands.
"What do you mean?"
"Tell me what?" She looked up at me, eyes full of something deeper than fear.
"Hope. I am pregnant." I froze. The room disappeared. The walls. The noise. The weight of everything we had survived. It all disappeared. Except her.
And the quiet life forming inside her.
Ours. A new heartbeat.
I pressed my forehead to hers. "Why did you not tell me?" She smiled faintly. "I did not want it to feel like another reason for you to rescue me."
Tears blurred my eyes.
"Amara, you are the one who rescued me." The hospital lights were too bright,
too sterile.
I sat by her side as they ran tests. Monitors beeped softly. Her fingers rested lightly on mine.
"She is stable," the doctor said.
"No sign of complications. The baby is strong." I exhaled, my body folding with relief. She just needs rest. Amara turned her face toward me.
"You should go. The twins. They are safe."
"They are with my sister. She flew in this morning." Amara raised an eyebrow. "Your sister who lives in Paris?"
I smiled.
"She dropped everything when I told her about you."
"She knows." I nodded.
"She said if I let you go, she would disown me." Amara laughed softly. But behind her smile, I saw it again.
That flicker of fear.
"You really want this?" she asked. I took her hand and placed it over my heart. "This is where you belong. You, the twins, and now." I gently touched her belly. "All of you." The news of Damien's arrest broke by evening. His face was splashed across every major outlet.
Kidnapping. Coercion. Blackmail.
The public was outraged. But strangely, they were not outraged at us. The footage of Amara dancing with my children had gone viral.
Not as a scandal,
but as a miracle. A woman restoring joy to deaf twins who had known too much grief. A mother in spirit, if not yet in name.
People saw her heart.
And in doing so,
they saw mine.
3 weeks later, I stood on the rooftop garden of our home.
The sky was soft.
Clouds drifting like unspoken promises. The twins were playing by the fountain, signing back and forth excitedly.
And Amara.
She stood by the railing, her hair braided, her silhouette glowing against the golden horizon.
I walked to her.
Slipped something into her hand.
She opened it. A small box.
Inside, a ring.
Simple. Elegant.
Engraved in Braille. She ran her fingers across the bumps. "What does it say?" I signed it slowly.
"Found. Not hired." She looked up at me, eyes wide. "Because you were never the help," I said.
"You were the healing."
Tears filled her eyes. She nodded.
And then, without words,
she said yes.
But just when I thought the chapter had closed, an envelope arrived.
No sender. No stamp.
Just one word handwritten across the front. For the child. Inside was a photo.
Of Amara.
Taken years ago.
In a clinic. Pregnant. But not recent.
Before she ever met me. Behind her stood a shadowed figure.
A woman. With cold, calculating eyes. My breath caught. It was my ex-wife.
And taped to the back of the photo was a note.
"Ask her who the father was.
Before you give her your name." The envelope felt like it weighed 100 pounds. My hands trembled. I turned the photo over again. The image was blurry, grainy, but there was no mistaking the faces.
Amara. Pregnant. Tired. Alone. And beside her, my ex-wife, Evelyn. Expression blank. Eyes sharp as glass.
The note, cruel in its simplicity.
Ask her who the father was
before you give her your name. I sat down on the edge of the bed, my knees weak. The walls of my world, the one we had just begun to rebuild, began to tilt. Memories rushed in. How Amara had hesitated that morning at the lake. How she had said, "It is not just them anymore." How she looked almost scared when I called the baby ours. I wanted to scream, to run down the stairs and demand the truth. But something stopped me. Her eyes. The way she looked at my twins. The way they looked at her. Like she was safety. Like she was home. I folded the photo, tucked it into my jacket, and walked to the window. She was outside with the twins, helping Alina pick fallen petals from the grass. Leo wrapped around her leg, giggling silently, his whole face glowing. I had to know the truth. But I could not shatter this peace with accusation. Not now. Not again. That night, after the twins were asleep, I found her in the nursery. She stood by the window, arms folded across her belly, gently rocking. The moonlight painted her in silver. I stepped into the room, quiet. Could not sleep. I asked. She smiled without turning. I am used to watching over them. Even when they sleep, I listen. I stepped closer and placed the photo in her hand. She did not move, did not flinch, just stared down at it. A long silence. Then finally, she spoke. I wondered how long it would take her. Her? I asked. My ex-wife. She nodded slowly. She was at the clinic the day I lost the baby. My heart stuttered. Lost. She turned to me. Eyes glassy. Voice soft. I was 17. It was before I ever met your children. Before Eva, my sister, ever got hired by Evelyn. I had nowhere to go, no family left. I was working at a shelter when I found out I was pregnant. I said nothing. I let her speak. I was scared, hungry, alone. But I was ready to fight for that child. She gripped the photo tighter. Then, I met Evelyn. She came to the shelter looking for a housekeeper. She saw me. I do not know what she saw exactly, but she offered to help. She paused. I should have known better. She walked slowly to the rocking chair and sat down. She took me to that clinic, promised to help me with medical bills, food, a job. But the clinic was not what it seemed. My blood went cold. She pressured me into terminating the pregnancy, she said, barely above a whisper. When I cried and refused, she had me moved to a private room. I woke up the next morning in pain. The baby was gone. I felt something inside me fracture. She said it was for my own good. That a child would ruin me. That she saved me. Tears streamed down her cheeks. And when I tried to leave, she threatened to blackball me. Said no one would hire a damaged, manipulative girl. She told me I was lucky. I knelt in front of her. Her shoulders shook as she wept. I never told you because I thought, maybe for once, I could build a new chapter without dragging the ghosts with me. I reached for her hand. You do not need to explain anything else, I said. But she looked up at me, broken. I needed you to know. This child, our child, is not a second chance for me. He or she is not here to replace what was lost. I am not trying to fix the past with your future. I held her face between my palms. And I am not here to punish you for what you survived.
I kissed her forehead. You are not broken, Amara.
You are the strongest person I know. She fell into my chest, sobbing quietly.
And in that moment, I knew
nothing Evelyn or anyone could do would tear us apart again. But just when I thought the past was behind us,
the phone rang. A private number.
I answered. A deep voice crackled through.
You were warned.
Now you will lose everything.
Then, a click.
They thought they had destroyed us. The media firestorm was relentless. My company's stocks crashed. Board members resigned. Shareholders panicked.
And yet, I did not run.
Because for the first time in my life, I had something to stand for that was not built on profit or power.
I had love.
I had family.
I had truth.
Amara refused to hide. She walked beside me, not behind me. She held my hand in public. She signed with my children in front of cameras. She spoke at press conferences with tears in her eyes and fire in her voice.
And the world listened.
Because her story was not one of scandal. It was survival.
It was sacrifice. It was strength.
And the truth always echoes louder than a lie. We sued those responsible for the blackmail. The audio was proven fake.
Spliced.
Fabricated with AI. We traced it back, not just to Damien, but to others Evelyn once trusted. They tried to silence Amara again. But this time, she had a voice that reached millions. And she used it, not for revenge but for change. She started a foundation. Hands of Hope. A movement dedicated to empowering single mothers, deaf children, and survivors of domestic manipulation. She became more than the woman who danced with my children in the kitchen.
She became a symbol of grace, of healing, of rebirth.
Today, I no longer chase boardroom glory. I wake up to the giggles of two beautiful children who taught me that silence is not emptiness, it is an invitation to listen deeper. And beside me sleeps a woman who once feared her past would define her future. But she rewrote her story, not with anger but with love. She gave me something I never had.
A home that breathes.
A heart that forgives.
And a reason to be a better man. The moral?
You may build kingdoms of stone. But it is the people who dance in your kitchen that turn your house into a legacy. You may lose your wealth. You may lose your name. But if you have love, truth, and courage, you are never truly poor. Never judge someone by where they came from. Judge them by what they have survived, and how they choose to love anyway. Because the strongest hearts are not the ones that never break. They are the ones that break, and still choose to give. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share it, comment below, and let someone know. You are never alone.